Okay, hello everyone. We are live here today on Eye Care Business's channels, our social media channels, our LinkedIn, our YouTube, and our Facebook. So welcome to you all watching live, and thank you for joining us. I am the editor-in-chief of Eye Care Business magazine, and I am super excited to be here today to talk a little bit about and share with you folks, our readers, our viewers, and our independent eye care professionals, that will really benefit from this very cool program from ABB. It's called ABB Verify. We're going to talk a little bit about how does ABB generate incremental revenue? It's a really kind of cool program that's been in development for a little while, but rolled out to the industry a couple of years ago. These folks here will share a little bit more with you. It can do a lot for your practice image, especially today. In today's world, it can really help differentiate your practice from others, especially from big box and online competitors, which we all know is super important. It will definitely up your efficiency factor and your wow factor. So we're going to talk a little bit about that with kind of our panel of experts here. And we have Dr. Kristen Yates, who is an optometrist with Littlefield Eye Associates in Kansas City, who is obviously celebrating this week after that big football game.
Just a little bit.
Congratulations.
I did it all myself. Yes.
Really cool. Congratulations, all the Kansas City fans out there. And sorry for the other folks. But anyway, we're here with Dr. Yates, who's actually has ABB Verify in practice. So is going to share a little bit about how that's benefiting her practice. We also are here with Joy Elliott, who is the COO of Performance Eye Care, which has 8 locations in St. Louis. And I think, Joy, you said 1 in Columbia?
Yeah, close to Kansas City. So I assisted.
Oh, there you go. Okay. And we have our token East Coaster here also. And I'm an ex-East Coaster, so I can relate. Romilly Emmons. He is the Director of Business Solutions Sales with ABB Optical Group. So thank you all for joining us. We're excited to hear more about ABB Verify from all of you today.
Thanks, Erinn.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll just jump right into my interview questions here for you folks. First off, Rom, I just want to ask you, since you've kind of been at the heart of this with ABB Verify, can you provide a little bit of background on what it actually is and the functions it offers to providers, the features and benefits for the independent ECP?
Sure, be glad to. So at the highest level, ABB Verify does a couple of things. It drives revenue for a practice, and it creates efficiencies for the staff in that administrative nightmare of checking vision eligibility. Verify now also checks medical insurances as well. And so it's really the ability to message the practice's patients to get them back to the practice because they have unused benefits. But it also is that easy up button that everybody needs now with staffing shortages and the ability to message, to have patients insurance checked both automatically and manually, and make sure that the patient's all set and ready to go as they arrive into the practice.
That's fantastic. We all know how important that is, to minimize friction as much as possible these days, and the consumer and the patient definitely wants that and is almost expecting that after kind of everything they've been through and all the conveniences they now have on different retail levels. So that's great to hear. So sounds like a great resource, and I know Dr. Yates and Joy, maybe Dr. Yates, will start with you in your practice, to kind of, you have had this in practice now. What kind of impact have you seen, or, can ABB Verify have on a practice?
Well, there's a couple of, I think, big things. Number one, when a patient calls to make an appointment and they say, I have this insurance, they kind of expect you to have their insurance ready whenever they show up to the office. But if you can say, oh, yes, we found your insurance, but by the way, did you know you had another plan under your spouse? Or then that automatically, you've exceeded their expectations and they've only been in the door for 2 minutes. So That's a great wow factor on the front side of it. And then if for whatever reason the patient doesn't use their benefits that day, if they want to try new contacts or they're going to come back to look at glasses with a second opinion, if we don't get the benefits used that day, it keeps kind of reminding them, hey, you still have some benefits to use. So by the time they do want to purchase those glasses or order those contacts, they remember that, and not just the 6 ads for other contact lens sellers that they have seen since they've been in your office.
Right.
Both of those help us out a lot.
That's fantastic. That's really, really great insight to hear. So Joy, how about you? You have, 8 locations, actually 9, right? So with the Columbia location. So you have 9 locations. How has this kind of helped you with your efficiencies? And I know you folks, with 9 locations, you must be dealing certainly with staff shortages or call out sick or
Yeah, it's been a very tough flu season for us. Working on the operations side, I hope to speak to a lot of numbers-driven individuals out there, but we use mostly the unused benefits portion of ABB Verify in 8 of our 9 practices. One's a cold start, so it's not quite a year old yet. Doesn't really make sense to use it yet. But when you're a smaller company, your resources are pretty limited and your marketing budget is pretty minimal. So a cost-effective option is to market to your current clients and then pray that you get word-of-mouth referrals. And I strongly feel like ABB Verify has increased our patient flow and decreased our team members' efforts to get those patients back in the door. I ran numbers for Q4 of 2021, and our average revenue on those transactions was $415. I know that may sound low to some practices, but when you're dealing with managed vision care plans and their contractual rates, which can be pretty detrimental, especially if you're only offering what's covered, I feel like it sets a good benchmark for our practices. If one falls short, another exceeds this threshold, we can learn from each other and figure out what's exceeding what that practice is doing that's better than the other practices. So we can really learn from this on the numbers side of things too.
That's great. Well, that really appreciate that insight, and from such a large number of practices that you're dealing with. I know also that ABB Verify can connect directly to patients. Why is that important in a vision care setting, and especially now today? I'll go back to Dr. Yates. What would you say, in terms of that? Why is that important today?
Well, like we've talked about with staffing shortages, with all the other issues that we're kind of facing right now, anything that makes us more efficient with the staff that we do have is fantastic. And the program is doing work for us by reminding people that they need benefits used, that it's time to come in, that if it's doing work for us that we don't have to do, that is invaluable right now.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Joy, anything to add to that?
When I think about my organization as a whole and the culture that we stand for, we really try to stay abreast of technology and eye care products so that we can offer our patients the best vision. But we also want to stay abreast of technology that's going to give our patients a 5-star customer experience. Our patients are constantly getting bombarded with tons of marketing communication. So we really need to stay at the top of the mind as their eye care provider. And I think about my busy lifestyle, and if this system could work for me, it's going to work for our patients, because I don't always have time to take a phone call when it happens right away. I prefer to email or text or communicate electronically because I can address an item, leave it, and then come back to it later. ABB Verify allows us to communicate with our patients electronically so they can take time out of their busy schedules to get an appointment on ours.
That's fantastic. Well, so it kind of leads to a question I have for you, Rom. Kind of how does this system with ABB Verify, how does it really differ from more traditional patient communication systems? And, what does that onboarding process look like?
Yeah, sure. It is different, much different than the typical recall service. So this is actually identifying patients from within the practice's database that have unused benefits and messaging them. So not only does it identify that they have unused benefits, but what those benefits are. And so it really gets a different message out to the patient to get them back to the practice. Everybody's looking for a different way to communicate with their patients. And this tool certainly does that. It sends one email, and 3 days later, it sends one text. So it adapts to what information is within the practice's practice management system, and is able to reach out to the patients that way. Everything, by the way, is branded 100% as the practices. So there's no ABB Optical or ABB Verify anywhere.
Oh, that's great to know. Yeah, that's a nice feature to really give it that kind of wow factor for your practice, your own branded kind of system. So Dr. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, regarding the onboarding process,
yeah,
it's very simple. We start with a very quick contracting component. This tool does contain patient health records and information, and so we're very cautious to protect that for the practice. But once that contract's signed, anywhere from about a week to 4 weeks to get on board, depending on the program that the customer is looking for. We have to get the logos and the URL links for their online scheduling platforms, and make sure that the messaging is set up appropriately for the practice. And with every Verify, the last step is training. We train each of the practices before they go live on the tool.
Oh, that's great. The training, must be a huge part of it.
Absolutely.
So I'm curious from a real world perspective, because I know Dr. Yates, your practice kind of recently brought that on, and you were involved with that onboarding process. What did that look like for you folks for your practice?
It was really easy to do. So I think we started last April or May, maybe, I think. And by the summer, we were already seeing huge returns on it. It doesn't take a long time for it to kind of start working. It just kind of immediately from the get-go, we were seeing big revenue. And it's good to see, like, you have a dashboard, so you can see exactly
that's great.
Which patients were actually brought in because of this message. And so it's not just a number that's out there that you kind of have to trust their system that's really what happened. It will tell you, well, this patient came in because of this message and they spent this much money. So it's really easy to verify that, yes, it works very quickly.
That's great. Well, then the name is appropriate.
Yes.
Because you really can verify a lot.
Yeah.
For sure. So, okay. Well, and Joy, I'll jump over to you with this question, and we'll also get Dr. Yates's comment. But how will practices benefit by implementing ABB Verify into their day-to-day routines? How has it benefited you folks in your locations at Performance Eye Care with implementing that in the day-to-day?
Well, I want to touch on a little bit of what Rom had mentioned earlier. I think one of the key components for us is that with patients having busier lifestyles, they don't always purchase their eyewear the same day that they have their eye exam. So it reminds them throughout the year. It's a constant reminder, like, hey, you still have those benefits to use. So let's come back in and get your eyeglasses or your contacts. There's so many moving parts in our industry. And I know for us, we try to simplify our processes as much as we possibly can for our team members and our patients. And I think what ABB has done for us is taken an idea that we dreamt up years ago that would have been very complicated to build a query within our practice management software. And it created a system that seamlessly connected with our PMS program, and it directly communicates exactly what we wanted to communicate to our patients without having us pick up a phone and take the time out of our day to manually do all of those things and then to track that. Like Dr. Yates said, there's a dashboard, and if you love numbers, you're going to love the dashboard. And I have gone and I've checked those numbers. They're very accurate, so I have no doubts that the system is correct. So to me, it's a time saver that I didn't really even know we needed until we started using it.
That's great. That's awesome to hear that it has worked so well for you folks on a day-to-day basis. So Dr. Yates, how about in your practice, that day-to-day routine? How's that affected or benefited your routine?
Well, I mean, it's nice because it doesn't change what you kind of have to do on a daily basis. It doesn't really change what I have to do. I just get to see patients, but it helps make those patients we've already worked to get. I mean, when you're marketing, obviously it's easiest to take on the people that you already have and try to make sure that you're maximizing their benefits. So it does that without being overly salesy, because you're not asking them to buy anything new. You're just asking them to use the stuff that they've already paid for. And that's really nice. So they get a benefit from it. Your sales still increase. It makes the recall come in faster. Because when we were looking at the dashboard, we were like, well, yeah, would some of those patients have come in anyway in another couple months? Probably. But whatever you can do to make your recall come in faster, then obviously that's great for your bottom line.
Absolutely, for sure. And every benefit helps in today's world. So Rom, anything there to add as we kind of wrap up our interview questions?
No, I think Dr. Elliott and Dr. Yates have said it perfectly. I'm going to bring them around when we talk
I
about.
do want to correct that I am not a doctor.
Football player maybe, but not a doctor.
Right.
The opportunity for second pair sales, less empty chair time, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing customers share that, practices share that information, and really the ease and spending more time with the patient, putting the patient first, is really some of the things that Verify does for the practice.
That's fantastic. Well, it sounds like a win-win for sure, and it's great to hear it, how it is actually, in real world, in real life, functioning in your practice and in your many practices that you have at Performance Eye Care. So we really appreciate you sharing those insights and those kind of from the ground insights. So, and good luck to you all with all your staffing challenges and getting through this kind of flu and Omicron season out there. So we really appreciate you taking the time to join us. I know everyone is very, very busy these days. So thank you for joining us. And thank you, Rom, for sharing insights on ABB Verify. It sounds like a fantastic opportunity for the independent ECP.
Thank
you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you all for joining us, to our viewers, and see you soon. We'll have more live streams coming up.